Yeah, so we're getting ready to start first round of capital raise. The purpose of that would be to use the money to up our manufacturing by about 25% so we can keep up with the constant build of demand, and then marketing, trade shows, and advertising is all the rest.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, we travel to Southern California to speak with a company that's producing CBD products that support the Hispanic community. Today in Raising Cannabis Capital, we are joined by Jimmy Raymond and Kevin Johnston from Gallo Labs. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, great.
Well, I'm glad to have you both on the show because the cannabis industry is really taking off, and CBD's one of the drivers of the industry. And over the years, we've had a lot of CBD companies on our show, and we're seeing both the demand for the products and the growth of the companies that supply the products is just exploded. With the CBD market getting more crowded every day, it seems like the smart CBD companies are starting to establish their niche. And I noticed with Gallo Labs, you have a huge following within the Hispanic community. Is that part of your brand strategy?
Yeah, well, part of the brand strategy, because we're based out of Southern California, and when we first launched, we noticed that a lot of the brands were popping up. And to be fair, we started in the cannabis side of everything. So we didn't actually start in the CBD for a year and a half later. But we noticed that everybody was coming out with brands and pretty much all looked alike, and nobody was catering to specific markets. And us being in the Southern California, San Diego region, we have a huge Hispanic market here. And so there's a lot of people here that are not bilingual or want to research this kind of stuff to see if they can improve their life. Mm-hmm. And there's nobody catering to them. So we decided that should be us.
Oh, I think it's great. The logo and everything that you're doing is specific to the brand. It's well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on your website right now, and I see you have a complete line of CBD products, including tinctures and pens and bombs. I noticed that on some of your products, they're listed as full spectrum CBD, and then some of them are listed as isolate. You can help me with this one because we get a lot of questions from our listeners to explain to them the difference between full spectrum and isolate CBD, why you would select one versus the other. Can you maybe help us with that?
Yeah, sure. So the isolate is just that. It's an isolated compound of the plant, just the CBD portion out of the plant. The plant itself has so many different other things in it, CBN, CBG, sometimes, a little bit of THC, THCA, Delta-9 THC. There's so many other things of the plant. And so, like, with some of the products that we use isolate-based, we used it because the core target use of the product, without making any medical claims here, the CBD portion of the plant itself would be a better fit for that kind of treatment.
I see, yeah.
The full spectrum entails the entire plant. And, there's a couple of different reasons why you choose one product or the other. Sometimes it has to do with drug testing. Sometimes it doesn't. There's some people that take, over-the-counter pain medications, and, if they take too much, it can have an adverse effect on them. Full spectrum can be the same way. If you're not a cannabis or CBD user on a regular or haven't experienced it before, a full spectrum could, if not done properly, give you a little bit of a change in the head feeling for a couple seconds, and then you level back out. And some people they freak out with that. So we try to offer, products to cover all ranges. I've heard, once again, I can't make the claims myself, but I've heard all different things of like treating epilepsy in small children, to, seizures and anxiety and stuff like that. And, there's just some things that it's better to have all the ingredients from the plant in there to help with those ailments. Mm-hmm. We do is we always encourage people to either email us or call us and ask any questions that they have. My personal cell phone number is really easy to be Googled. I get phone calls from random people all the time that have Googled us and just want to ask some questions about it. It's just how I do it. I have no problem with answering those.
Well, I think that makes a big difference, and it sets you apart from a lot of the other companies because it seems like that approach is you're in it to stay. It's not like you're make a quick buck and get out of it quickly.
Yeah, well, I first started this because my wife's best friend was dying of cancer, and she was only 31 years old.
Oh, man.
And she had never been a cannabis user or a CBD user, so she was going around and she was buying stuff off of Amazon and going around to the black market shops because she didn't know the difference between a black market shop and a legal shop. And she was going around and picking up products, and none of it was working well for her. You know, I have a little bit of a chemistry background, and I've been involved in the cannabis industry for a couple decades. I set out to say, well, I'm going to make you something that's going to work for you, and maybe it'll make you feel better at least. She passed away a year ago, and then from there it just went on to, helping the next person and helping the next person.
It's definitely apparent, or the feel is throughout your website. I get that sense. And not to continue on a downer topic, but the, with the vaping issue and related illnesses, in addition to that, vaping is also commonly criticized for being unreliable because they leak or their flavor or potency or effectiveness just isn't consistent from batch to batch. But you guys have worked really hard to solve that problem. Maybe explain to our listeners what sets you apart with vaping.
Well, me personally, I did come from the vape industry. I still do have a business in that industry. I spent since 2013 in that industry. I got to travel the world and meet manufacturers and customers and vendors from all over the world. And I put a lot of time into the actual science behind the mechanics of the vaping port, being able to utilize that experience and understanding pre-temperature heating ranges and what it actually takes to get a coil to heat up and airflow, what the restrictions on those can do and stuff like that. That was where we were able to benefit from it. I also know what to look out for and what not to look out for when it comes to the manufacturing side of things on the vaping devices. We're able to get our stuff tested for heavy metals. Using the experience from the other industry was where we were able to benefit.
Yeah, and I think that, having the right formulas too. I know you put a lot of effort into making sure that your formulas are right so that they're consistent.
So we do about 4 to 5 months of R&D on any product before it comes out on the market.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have been working on gel caps and gummies.
Oh.
We've been working on that for 5 months now, and we are in the process of starting the packaging design.
I want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to today's show. As the exclusive Cannabis Podcast Network, we're constantly adding new cannabis podcasts to support our industry's growth, and that's why we're so excited to welcome the Seed to Sound podcast to our network. The team at Seed to Sound has produced over 50 exciting and thought-provoking cannabis podcasts, and now you can listen to all their previous episodes and all their new episodes at MJBulls.com. So welcome, Seed to Sound, and stay tuned for new, exciting cannabis podcasts on the MJBulls Cannabis Podcast Network. You built a nice business with essentially a lot of word-of-mouth advertising. For as successful as you are, from what I understand, you haven't put a lot of money into marketing or advertising. You're just relying on loyalty of your customers.
Word of mouth is our biggest thing right now. It's what helps us get out. Once again, I was able to utilize some contacts from the vape industry to help our brand get recognized across the nation pretty fast, but mostly it's all word of mouth. We do a lot of the small pop-up shows, the cannabis market ones or whatever.
Yeah.
We go there and we just should display CBD products.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. Like I said, you have a very, very loyal following. Part of it has to do with your branding, but more of it has to do with the product itself, and I think that makes a big difference. Now, to get it to the next level, though, I assume you're going to have to start advertising, and you're probably going to have to increase staff, which is difficult to do out of cash flow. Are you in the process, or do you intend to start raising capital?
Yeah, so we're getting ready to start first round of capital raise. The purpose of that would be to use the money to up our manufacturing by about 25% so we can keep up with the constant build of demand, and then marketing, trade shows, and advertising is all the rest. It's
like you said, you gotta keep up with the demand, because if they're not buying it from you, they want it. They're going to get it someplace. How big is the raise?
Around $500,000.
Okay, all right. So it's the right place for a seed round, and you're an established company with an established following. And I think this is the right time to start raising capital. Like I said, otherwise, you might miss the boat just because if you have orders, you need to take advantage of them.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, we've been speaking with Jimmy Raymond and Kevin Johnston from Gallo Labs, and we'll have all their contact information and also information about the raise on the MJBulls website. Guys, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good luck with this.
Thank you.
Today's show was made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, like Helix TCS, the leading provider of critical infrastructure services to the legal cannabis industry. Recently, Helix's president of data services and former New York Stock Exchange executive Garvis Toller was a guest on the show to discuss cannabis capital markets and how savvy businesses and investors are capitalizing on the recent downturn. Tune into episode 152 to learn more. Today's podcast was produced by MJBulls Media, the industry's premier cannabis podcast network, with original music produced in part by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the Raising Cannabis Capital podcast.